All right, Hugh, let's break it down, though. The schedule is out, and we knew some of it heading into yesterday, right? Like 5 or 6 games had leaked, but now you get the full picture. And I'm going to just very quickly roll through it, and people out there driving, if you're not in front of a screen right now, maybe you can't see it. So I'm going to say it so you can hear it, and then we'll kind of just go through our big picture thoughts on the schedule. My first one, though, before I even say this is not an easy schedule. We knew it would be hard. We knew based on the opponents and their win totals for this coming season, this was going to be a hard schedule. Here it is, broke it down game by game. Week 1 at home, Thursday Night Football, the Dallas Cowboys. Week 2 on the road in Kansas City, rematch against the Chiefs. Week 3 back at home, the Rams come in. Week 4, as always, it seems to be in September, in Tampa Bay in Week 4 on the road. Week 5 at home against the Broncos. Week 6, Thursday Night Football in New York against the Giants. Week 7 on the road again against the Minnesota Vikings. Week 8 back here against the Giants. Then a bye in Week 9. So the bye right there smack dab in the middle. Week 10 on the road, Monday Night Football in Green Bay. Week 11 at home, Sunday Night Football. The Detroit Lions come in. Week 12 on the road in Dallas. Week 13, that is Black Friday against the Bears at home. Week 14, Chargers on the road, Monday Night Football. Week 15, Raiders at home. And how about this close? Week 16 on the road on a Saturday in Washington. Week 17 on the road in Buffalo. And Week 18 at home, they finish with the Commanders. All right, Hugh, before you give me your win total, what hits you, though? Like, what's your takeaway when you looked at the schedule? Because there's a couple things that stood out to me. The first one is, Hugh, they don't have back-to-back home games the entire season.
That's the first thing that jumped out to me. As I'm looking, I'm still, as you can see, I'm still looking at this schedule, like just trying to figure out where I want to go with this. This is a daunting schedule, especially when you talk about that first half of the season, man. I'm like, But to your point, I was like, damn, no back-to-back games. So we're all over the place.
Yes, I think there's going to be very little chance for the Eagles to gain some momentum and rhythm. It doesn't mean they can't win road games, obviously. They're a really good team. They could win. They could beat anybody. But like that rhythm of sometimes in a schedule you get the balance of, all right, a couple road games here, and then you come home for 2 or 3 straight weeks, and you have a couple teams you could beat. They don't really have that. I mean, they have home game against the Giants. That should be a sure win. They have a home game late against the Raiders. That should be a win. But there's not that back-to-back home games. That's the first time a team in NFL history off a Super Bowl has not had back-to-back home games. That stood out. Second thing that stood out, I know people thought it was tongue-in-cheek the other day. Maybe it was. It's not now. The Dallas game in Week 1 is a must-win. They go to Kansas City in Week 2. So it's a very early, road trip to Kansas City. I do like, if we get to some things I like, Hugh, I like that they get extra rest for a lot of these games, like the big ones. They get extra rest for the Chiefs game. They get extra rest for the Vikings game. They get extra rest for the Packers, extra rest for the Chargers, extra rest for Buffalo. So that, I'm good with all that. But, Hugh, the big takeaway is there's not many spots they can breathe on this schedule. It's like, yeah, you might get the Giants, but then you got the Packers. Yeah, you might get the Raiders, but then you got the Commanders. All right, let me hit you with it. The first time I went through it, my number, at 215-592-9494, my number, the first time I went through the schedule, and I started doing the WL game, and we'll go through the pockets of the schedule as the day goes through. But, Hugh, I have 11 wins. This looks to me like a daunting schedule, one of the toughest in the NFL. I think they're still one of the best teams in the NFL, but the schedule sometimes dictates the record more than your overall talent level. Hugh, the first time I looked at it, I have 11 wins, 6 losses for the 2025 Eagles. Hugh Douglas, what's the number?
You know what? Allow me to talk a little bit because I kind of did what everybody else did. I looked at the entire schedule.
Yep.
And you start to think, now, I didn't know who was going to lose to who or whatever, but the number off the top of my head, Joe, was 12 to 13. Like, that was the number that immediately jumped in my head. And then it became one of those things where, okay, what is that one game that could swing either way? I feel like right now, just off the top of my head, that could be that Commodores game, one of those Commodores games. I know I was listening to some of my other friends talk about the schedule and everything, and they feel like they're going to sweep through the schedule. B. Brooks feels like they're just going to sweep through the NFC East. I think that's tough. And I know that with the teams that we have in the division, that seems like it's somewhat feasible. And then you look at the way that we put it on. The Commodores last year, even though, the one win that they did get against us, it was because obviously Jalen was hurt.
Right.
They're going to be a better football team. And as we've seen, they put up a pretty good fight the last time. I mean, not technically. Well, during the season, they put up a good fight.
Yeah, both games were very competitive.
Yeah, but in the playoffs, it was something different. So I feel like there's a chance we split with one of those, with one of those two games.
Oh, I agree with that.
But, yeah, man, it's tough. This is a tough schedule. This is a tough schedule. I can tell you off the top, I think going to Tampa Bay, that's going to be tough, and because we never play well there.
And doesn't it always seem that game is early in the season where it's hot?
Yeah, where you catch them early.
I think we've played there week 4 like 3 years in a row. They did it in 2023. They did it last year. We're going back there in week 4. The other thing, Hugh, you mentioned spots and where the game is. We have to go to Buffalo in late December. I mean, that game is sandwiched right in between the Commanders games. That's not easy. So you're at 12 or 13? You're hovering in that area?
Yeah, because I'm still and just to let y'all know, mine is still fluid because this is not easy to do because I'm doing it with my heart. You know what I mean? And it's like your heart's telling you what. So it's like it's not easy.
All right, 215-592-9494. It's literally one of my favorite days of the year. The schedule is out, and we all have a win total in our head after looking at it. I will be totally transparent. The first time I was hovering, like Hugh's hovering 12, 13. I was hovering 10, 11, and then I landed on 11. Hugh mentioned the swing game being the Commanders. I think the Cowboys are going to end up the swing of this schedule because I have them beating the Cowboys twice, but we know they don't do that very often. I mean, what was last year the first time in like a decade they swept the Cowboys? I have them at 11 wins with a sweep over the Cowboys helping us get there because the rest of that schedule is hard. 215-592-9494. All right, the Eagles' schedule is out. We'll get to a lot today, including the Phillies and whatever that disaster was with Aaron Nola last night. But we start with the schedule. The Super Bowl champions, the defending champs, the schedule is out. What is the win total you have this morning? I sit at 11. Hugh's trying to get his way between 12 and 13. But I did have 10 at one point in my head before I moved to 11. Kyle, where are you this morning as the Eagles have one of the most difficult schedules in the league?
So I'm trying to go into this as optimistic as possible, knowing the backdrop that the Eagles are Super Bowl champions.
Yes.
And still probably, if not the best team in the league, one of the best teams in the league. The schedule's freaking brutal, man. Like, the more I look up and down it and the more I go through, like, win-loss, I'm like, man, there's almost no breaks whatsoever. And even, like, if you consider the Giants a break, they're sandwiched between, there's 1 week in between them, and it's a division rival. So even if the Giants are a little bit better than last year, like, I'm trying to count that as a sweep, but that's not even a guarantee. I think it's fair and reasonable to say you split with the Cowboys, you split with the Commanders, and they have no back-to-back home games whatsoever. Like, there's just a lot of tough spots here. A lot of teams that I think, when they play the Eagles are going to be looking for revenge. I mean, you'll have the Packers, you'll have the Lions with a chip on their shoulder from not having seen us, the Commanders, too, both times. The Rams, even, who we beat in the divisional round. Like, it's just a brutal, brutal schedule. So I'm trying to be optimistic. I went through it, and this is even with a 5-game win streak in there. I have 11 wins. I have 11 wins for the Eagles, and that was even with me going through this, like, trying to be as optimistic as possible. I think 11 wins would honestly be a good outcome with this schedule, and if you got 13 or more, I think you have Super Bowl syndrome.
You know what's kind of getting me? It's 4 games on here, the 4 back-to-backs, like, well, not back-to-backs like that, but it's like
back-to-backs.
Well, no, it's 2 back-to-backs. It's like 2 back-to-backs.
I mean, let's not lie to ourselves.
4, that's
here.
a lot. That's a lot. The back-to-backs
let's not lie to ourselves.
But no, it's the Giants and Vikings. Both of those are on the road.
Yes.
And then you have the Commodores and the Rams.
The Commodores and Bills.
Well, I had the Rams. My fault, because I was like, okay, the Bills. The Commodores and the Bills back-to-back. That's too tough. that back-to-back right there is going to be tough.
Well, how about this? How about the last month of the season? Monday Night Football in Los Angeles against the Chargers, right?
Yeah.
Then they come home, and they should beat the Raiders here. But after that, at Washington, at Buffalo, Washington, 4 of the last 5 are Chargers, Commanders, Bills, Commanders.
That back-to-back, that Commodores and the Bills back-to-back.
Yes.
Because you're coming off of a division game. Those division rivalry games, man, they're always tough. Then you got to go on the road to go to Buffalo against the Bills, and they're going to be reeling about the last time we saw them, and we put hands on them. So that's going to be a good game. Yeah, that's a tough one.
The other thing is just the sheer number of teams they play that played in the playoffs last year. I think they play, is it 10 teams that played the playoffs last year?
Yeah, so more playoff teams from the previous year than any other team in NFL history.
So how about this? As you look through the schedule, from opening night until Black Friday, the only teams they play that didn't make the playoffs last year are the Giants and Cowboys, division opponents. Everybody else they play from opening night all the way to Black Friday, post-Thanksgiving, was a playoff team last year. The Chiefs, the Rams, the Bucks, the Broncos, the Vikings, the Packers, the Lions, all playoff teams. I mean, if the Eagles can get back to somewhere in the 13-win range, first of all, incredible job by Sirianni and the team. And second, they're really going to have to earn it.
And then, even if you consider that, you have the Cowboys who, I don't know, they're maybe one of those fringe teams. They could make the playoffs next year. Mm-hmm. And then the Bears, who you would think might take a step forward too. Like, it's so tough.
It really is. 215-592-9494. We've all done it. We've looked at the schedule. We've probably analyzed it 15 times already. The number that comes to your head, what's your win total as you look at the Eagles' schedule? I'm at 11. Kyle's at 11. Optimistic Hugh is hovering between 12 and 13. I do wonder by the end of the show if Hugh's going to come down to 12, going to go up to 13. My guess he goes to 13. But we'll see, though. 215-592-9494.
We might have lost him until he finishes the schedule.
I know, yeah. What month are you in over there?
I can't multitask.
Yeah, I'm hard with multi. I've written down like 3 different schedules, like 3 different scenarios.
Yeah,
And you know what the biggest thing is? And you know how my ADD works. I'm stuck on my handwriting. I don't like my handwriting right now. So I got to keep writing.
You're writing one letter, W or L.
No. I like to write out the teams. I'm trying to get a feel for this. No. So I'm writing them down, and I'm writing them down.
Yeah, we can print it. We have paper.
Because I'm trying to get in. I'm trying to get in touch with this thing, man. Y'all don't understand how this thing works.
Oh
for
yeah,
me.
we don't understand.
Because I'm trying to, and I got to write it down again.
Okay, yeah.
Because the only one that I got for a win right now is the Cowboys.
That's
the first game of the season.
We need more than that.
You've only gotten to week 1.
Yes.
This whole time.
Because I'm sitting here, I'm like,
will you get through 17 games by the end of the show?
Because I don't know how I feel. Like that Chiefs game, man.
Oh, come on.
I'm trying to play. Listen, I'm trying to do what the AI does. I'm trying to play the scenarios in my head like Doctor Strange did when they was fighting Thanos and they only had one scenario to win.
You're doing AI on us? Just give me a win or a loss. All right, 215-592-9494. We'll go through the schedule in quadrants. We'll go through September and October and November and December and how we all feel playing it out. What are you feeling this morning? The Eagles' schedule is out. They open up with the Cowboys. They go to Kansas City in week 2. And again, everyone thought we were kidding the other day. It's not a joke. Week 1 against the Cowboys is absolutely a must-win. They cannot lose that game and then go to KC. Rams in week 3. And then, of course, to Tampa Bay in week 4. What's the win total?
I don't like this first quadrant.
I don't love it either.
I don't like that first quad.
Well, you know who else might not like the first quad?
Nick Sirianni
and Vic Fangio with 5 new starters. And he's got to face Dak and Mahomes and Stafford and Baker Mayfield those first 4 weeks.